Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some great material you shared, focusing on business analysis and agile methods, specifically this BA class day 12 Dr. Lisa document.
Right.
And our mission, basically, is to pull out the core ideas, agile principles, the agile mindset, team dynamics from this PDF. Kind of a shortcut to the key stuff.
Exactly. It's a pretty comprehensive document, actually. It covers the mindset, the manifesto principles,
Yeah.
processes like envisioning, speculate, explore, adapt, then frameworks, practices, the
Mhm.
backlog, user stories,
Epics, features, all of that.
and even gets into team health with the 5 dysfunctions, plus Scrum and Kanban basics. It's a lot to unpack.
Okay, let's start with the agile mindset then. The document lists 6 key points. What are they driving at?
Well, it seems to be about shifting focus. Things like increasing ROI, delivering reliable results.
Right, reliability is huge.
Expecting uncertainty, that's a big one.
It feels more realistic, doesn't it? Projects are rarely certain.
Totally. And then unleashing creativity, boosting performance, and just improving overall effectiveness.
It sounds like the dream state for any project almost.
It kind of is. And it ties into this thing called the Agile Triangle the document mentions. It contrasts the old way measuring success by just hitting cost, schedule, and scope targets.
It's classic iron triangle.
Exactly. With the Agile view, which prioritizes value like a usable product and quality reliable, adaptable,
Uh-huh.
and it sees scope, schedule, and cost more as constraints you adjust to get that value and quality.
So it's less about did we build exactly what we first thought, on time, on budget,
Hmm?
and more did we build the right thing, something valuable and well made.
Precisely. And often, like the document notes, the schedule is fixed, time-boxed iterations, but the scope can flex to fit that.
That's a fundamental shift, delivering the most valuable stuff within the time allowed rather than everything initially planned.
Yeah, adaptability and outcome-focused.
Which leads us straight into the Agile Manifesto.
Yes, the 4 values. I always remember the over part. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools.
Working software over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation.
And responding to change over following a plan.
It seems pretty clear-cut.
It is, but the nuance is important.
Yeah.
The document rightly says it's not about throwing out the stuff on the right.
Right, you still need some processes, some documentation.
Of course. But it's about where the emphasis lies. It's a philosophy being agile, not just doing agile tasks about rote. It sets the tone.
Okay, so if the manifesto is the philosophy, the 12 principles are how you put it into practice.
That's a great way to put it. They flesh out the values. Any principles that jump out from the list?
Well, the first one seems key. Satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Early and continuous, that feels very agile.
Absolutely. Get something working in front of them quickly and often, and welcoming changing requirements, even late. That directly supports responding to change.
Yeah, seeing change as a competitive advantage for the customer, not just a hassle. What else?
Frequent delivery, like you said, weeks rather than months. Daily collaboration between business folks and developers.
Breaking down those silos.
Definitely. And building projects around motivated individuals, trusting them. That's huge.
Giving them the environment and support, then getting out of the way, basically.
Cognitive, yeah. And the emphasis on face-to-face conversation being most effective.
Even in our digital age, that direct interaction is powerful.
It really is. Plus, working software is the primary measure of progress, not just status reports.
Tangible results, I like that. And sustainable pace, technical excellence, simplicity.
Simplicity, maximizing the amount of work not done. That's brilliant. Focus on what truly adds value.
And the last couple, self-organizing teams.
Yeah, the idea that the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from teams that manage themselves.
That requires a lot of trust.
It does. And finally, the team regularly reflecting and tuning its behavior to become more effective. Continuous improvement baked right in.
Okay, so principles guide the action. Now, the document mentions process phases. Envisioning, speculate, explore, adapt, close. Plus, feasibility, initiation, release planning. How do these fit?
Think of them as like the high-level stages. Envisioning is the big picture goal. Speculate is initial planning.
Guessing, almost.
Well, informed guessing. Explore, adapt is the core loop. Build, learn, adjust. Close is wrapping up.
And feasibility and initiation are the upfront checks.
Right. Does this make sense? Let's get it started. And release planning looks at grouping increments for delivery.
Got it. Then we get into the framework's iterative development and program increment. This sounds like the engine room.
Pretty much. Iterative development is based on those short cycles. The iterations usually 2-4 weeks.
Sprints, in Scrum terms.
Often, yeah. You pull from the product backlog into an iteration backlog. You have daily check-ins, build a working product increment. Then you do a retrospective. How can we improve? And a demo or review to show what you built and get feedback. Then repeat.
Plan, do, check, act, but really fast.
Exactly. A tight feedback loop.
And the program increment framework, is that for bigger stuff?
Yeah, it scales it up. You might have multiple teams working through several iterations together over a longer period, maybe 8-12 weeks, to deliver a larger integrated product increment, still flowing from that main product backlog.
Okay, coordinating multiple teams' iterations. Makes sense.
Yeah.
The document then lists 9 agile practices. Quick rundown.
Sure, these are concrete things teams do. Whole team having all skills needed. Backlog management. Planning poker for estimation.
That's the one with the cards.
Yeah, gets everyone involved. Risk-based prioritization, tackle risky stuff first. Detailed iteration planning for focus. The daily stand-up we mentioned.
Crucial for coordination.
Iteration review for demos. The retrospective for improvement. And sometimes an agile scorecard for metrics. Each helps the team stay agile and healthy.
Let's zoom in on the product backlog. Described as everything yet to be done, value-focused, prioritized by the product owner, always evolving. Sounds critical.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's the single source of truth for what the team might work on. And that hierarchy you mentioned, epics, sub-epics, features, stories, tasks, helps break things down.
Can you walk through that hierarchy? Like, what's an epic versus a story?
Sure. An epic is a really big chunk of work, maybe spanning multiple releases or program increments. Think large initiative.
Okay.
Sub-epics break that down a bit, delivering value within a chunk. Features are smaller, maybe fit within one program increment, delivering specific customer value.
Right.
Stories are small enough to be done in a single iteration, like 1 or 2 weeks. They deliver a specific piece of business value. And tasks are the actual steps needed to complete a story.
So big idea gets broken down progressively smaller until it's doable in a short cycle. Who actually keeps this backlog in shape?
The product owner owns it. They have the final say on priority. But the doc says anyone can write items for the backlog.
Interesting.
And there's this ongoing process called backlog grooming or refinement. The PO and the team constantly review items, break down big ones, add detail, estimate, reprioritize. It's never really static.
That's a living thing. Now, user stories, the agile replacement for requirements docs,
Yeah.
right? That, as a abo, I want, ooba, so that format.
Exactly. It forces you to think about the user, their goal, and the why, the value. It's user-centric.
And the 3 Cs. Card, conversation, confirmation.
Yeah. Card, it's often small, like on an index card. The card is a placeholder for a discussion to figure out the details. Confirmation leads to clear acceptance criteria, so you know when it's truly done.
Like the example. As a dealer, I can log into the new order entry screen so that I can gain access to my dealer account. Clear user action benefit.
Simple, but powerful for shared understanding.
And epics and features. The examples show an epic like increased training topics and a feature like developed agile training. So the feature delivers on part of the epic's goal.
Precisely. Epic, big strategic goal.
Right.
Feature, tangible service fulfilling a need, often grouping related stories, deliverable within a release or PI. Sub-epics bridge that gap for incremental delivery.
Okay, clear structure. What about the overall benefits of going agile and this whole team idea?
Key benefits highlighted are visibility, frequent demos mean no surprises, adaptability, you can change direction, value working software delivered early, and risk management, you find problems sooner.
All sounds good. And a whole team.
It means that the team has all the skills needed, analysis, design, coding, testing, whatever, right there, cross-functional.
No waiting for handoffs to other departments.
Ideally, no, highly skilled, dedicated people, preferably working closely together, maybe even co-located, highly collaborative and self-organizing.
And the document lists characteristics of team members. Collaborative, supportive, adaptive, taking initiative, willing to cross boundaries.
Yeah, receptive to feedback, good problem solvers. It paints a picture of a really synergistic group.
It does, which is a perfect lead-in to the 5 dysfunctions of a team. This seems crucial for making Agile actually work.
Absolutely critical, because even with the best processes, if the team dynamics are broken, you won't get far.
It starts with absence of trust, and it's about vulnerability, right? Not just trusting competence.
Exactly. Feeling safe enough to say, I messed up, or I need help, or I don't know. Without that, people are just protecting themselves.
What helps build that trust? The doc mentions things like personal histories.
Yeah, sharing a bit about your background to humanize each other, and behavioral profiling, like Myers-Briggs, just to understand different styles. The goal is vulnerability-based trust.
Okay, dysfunction 2. Fear of conflict, not wanting to disagree openly.
Right. Avoiding passionate, constructive debate about important issues. Good conflict is necessary to find the best answers.
So how do you encourage healthy conflict?
Well, the document mentions a conflict resolution model, looking at obstacles. Also setting conflict norms, agreeing how the team will debate things respectfully. Assessment tools like the depth frequency model can also help understand patterns.
Makes sense. Then lack of commitment. People nodding along but not really buying in.
Often because of ambiguity or lack of clarity after a discussion, people might have different interpretations of what was decided.
So tools for this: commitment clarification, like explicitly stating decisions at the end of meetings.
Exactly. Summarize what was agreed. Also, cascading communication, sharing those commitments outwards, clarifying team principles, and having a single clear thematic goal everyone rallies around.
Got it. Fourth dysfunction: avoidance of accountability, not calling out peers.
Yeah, reluctance to hold each other to account for behaviors or performance that impacts the team. Often stems from lack of trust or fear of conflict.
And the tool here is the team effectiveness exercise. Peer feedback.
Structured to feedback, yeah. On what helps and hurts team performance. It pushes accountability towards peers, not just the leader.
And finally, inattention to results. When individual needs ego, career, department trump team goals.
This is where the focus shifts away from the collective win. The solution mentioned is establishing a team scoreboard.
A scoreboard.
Yeah, tracking clear, shared objectives tied to that thematic goal. Keeps everyone focused on the team's actual results, not just individual or departmental status.
Wow, that 5 dysfunctions model really puts the human element front and center for agile success.
It really does.
Yeah.
Process is important, but team health is foundational.
Okay, so building on that, the document briefly lists common agile methodologies: Scrum, XP, Lean, Kanban.
FTD, DSTM.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes the point that the agile philosophy we discussed applies across these frameworks. There are different ways to be agile.
Let's touch on the big 2 mentioned: Scrum and Kanban. Starting with Scrum roles.
3 core roles. Product owner, the voice of the business and customer, owns the backlog, focuses on ROI, decides if work is done.
Okay.
Scrum master, the facilitator, coach, impediment remover, shields the team, helps enact Scrum values. Not a project manager in the traditional sense.
More like a servant leader.
Often described that way, yeah.
Yeah.
And the team members, cross-functional, self-organizing, usually 5 to nicer people doing the actual development work.
And the ceremonies, the meetings.
Key ones are sprint planning team selects work for the sprint, creates the sprint backlog, breaks down tasks. Daily Scrum, that 15-minute stand-up. What did I do? What will I do? Any blockers? It's a commitment to peers, not a status report for the Scrum Master.
Important distinction.
Sprint review demo the work done. Informal, get feedback from stakeholders. Sprint retrospective, look back at the process. What went well, what didn't, what should we start? Start, stop, continue doing, usually after the review.
That continuous improvement loop again. And the artifacts. The things Scrum produces.
Product backlog, the master list. Sprint backlog, the work committed for the current sprint. And burn down charts to visualize progress, usually tracking remaining work.
And Scrum has rules like no changes during a sprint.
Generally, yeah, to allow the team to focus, individuals pull work, estimate remaining effort daily. It promotes focus and predictability within the sprint.
Okay, that's a good overview of Scrum. Now, Kanban, how does it differ?
Kanban is more about flow. The core practices are visualize workflow, usually on a Kanban board with columns for stages.
Like the example: backlog, to-do, code and test, acceptance testing, in production.
Exactly. Second, limit work in progress, WIP. Each stage or column has a limit on how many items can be in it at once. This prevents bottlenecks and creates a pull system.
Wall system.
Yeah, work is only pulled into the next stage when there's capacity. The mantra is stop starting, start finishing, improves focus, and reduces lead time.
Interesting. What else?
Manage flow, monitor how work moves, identify bottlenecks, measure things like lead time, total time from request to delivery, and cycle time, time spent actively working. Make process policies explicit. Everyone knows the rules, WIP limits, definition of done, and improve collaboratively using feedback, retrospectives, maybe models like theory of constraints.
So it's less about fixed iterations and more about continuous flow and optimizing that flow.
That's a great summary. The Dane Kanban example shows stories moving across the board as capacity allows, with WIP limits forcing completion before new things are pulled in.
Right. Seems like a different but equally valid way to apply Agile principles.
Definitely. Different contexts might favor one over the other, or even a hybrid approach.
Well, we have certainly covered a huge amount of ground from this document. We went from the Agile mindset shift through the manifesto's values and the practical principles.
Let's look at process flows, frameworks like iterative development and program increments, specific practices,
Dug into the product backlog, user stories, epics, features, and then the huge topic of team dynamics with the 5 dysfunctions.
and wrapped up with overviews of Scrum and Kanban as ways to implement it all.
It really hammers home that Agile isn't just a methodology, is it? It's a culture shift. Embracing change, focusing on value, iterating quickly.
And crucially, fostering teams built on trust, healthy conflict, commitment, accountability, and a shared focus on results. You can't really do Agile effectively without attending to those team elements.
So for everyone listening, as you think about all this, consider how these ideas, the principles, the practices, the team dynamics might apply in your world. What's one thing that really resonated?
Yeah, maybe it's the idea of welcoming change, or the power of visualizing workflow in Kanban, or perhaps tackling that absence of trust using some of the tools mentioned.
Whatever it is, maybe dig a bit deeper into that specific area, whether it's Scrum, Kanban, or the 5 Dysfunctions book itself. There's always more to learn. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.